I have a heart condition that makes me pass out regularly. One time when I was passed out, my high school boyfriend had intimacy with me. I was horrified and broke up with him immediately, but I was too scared to tell anyone. Years later, he gets engaged to my childhood best friend, and I can't stay silent anymore. Growing up, I, F27, had a childhood friend, Angie, F27, who was as close as a real sister. We spent entire weekends at each other's place, celebrated family events, etc. from 6 years old until 18 years old. Elle even lived at her place in second grade while my parents went to a nasty divorce. I learned to speak some Russian, as she is Russian, and she learned to speak some Spanish. Needless to say, her older brother and little sister were like a family to me. During our teenage years, she had her two male best friends, one whom she started dating, and another one, Nico, now 29, who was Russian as well, whom I started dating at 17. Growing up, I had issues with a heart condition. I won't bore you with the details, but I had to take a lot of meds, but got healthier starting from 16. One didn't have to take them daily, but only when my heart rate became irregular. But then immediately, as it would become extremely painful, my heart would cramp, I would start to hyperventilate. All my friends knew this, Nico included, and that I would black out if my meds got taken with alcohol. I didn't smoke much or drink much growing up as a result, since I was worried about my health and only did drink at home or in a safe setting. Legal drinking age is 16 here, and I only drank wine or beer if at all. I had my first time with Nico at 17, and when my parents stayed at a retreat 2 weeks later, he come over to have a date night. I did drink 1 glass of wine, but starting having health issues later resulting in me taking my meds and being unconscious. I was a bit sore the next morning, but didn't think much about it. 2 weeks later, I'm informing Nico that I'm late on my period, and he starts to panic, confessing he had sex with me while I was unconscious. We had it before, so he didn't think much about it. Apparently, he didn't have a condom, but since I was on the pill, he figured it was all right. And he also didn't finish in me, but in a tissue. I felt violated and disgusted by myself. I didn't know how to describe this and only told Angie about it. I was an utter mess for a few years and wasn't able to have sex again until 2 years later. I didn't remember any of it, but was too ashamed to go to my mom or anybody else. I didn't think of it as assault back then. I was too young to really understand what and how I was violated, and Angie told me it's all right. I should break up if I feel bad about it. But we were in a relationship and did have intimacy before. I broke up with him the following day, and apparently he cried about his broken heart to her. As Nico and Angie were close and hanging out together a lot, they started dating a few months afterwards, and I had to see him every time when visiting her. I told her I'm not able to see him, but she didn't understand where I'm coming from. The contact stopped, and we haven't texted or seen each other in years. I still followed her and her family and saw that her brother is expecting his first child. As I was extremely close with her family, I just commented on the Insta post expressing my gratitude when he reached out to me. I missed his wedding, but he wanted to ask if I would be interested in joining the baby shower, as it's been years, and we've been extremely close before. He told me I was like a third little sister. I just asked if Nico will be attending as well, as Angie and him have been dating for 9 years now, and he said yes. I didn't elaborate much, but just expressed that I'll send a small present if he can give me his current address, but won't be attending. He kept on pestering me what exactly happened all those years ago and why I'm not in their lives anymore. Angie told her family I'm not able to see her with an ex of mine, but her brother thought there's more behind it. This is when I think I could be the asshole. I told him the truth about what happened back then. And while I didn't know it at 17, I know now that this was a struggle cuddle, and I named it as such. I didn't receive any message back from him, but a few days later Angie reached out to me, furious. Nico had planned to propose during the baby shower, but Angie's brother is against it now, having learnt why I stopped the contact. She loves Nico and will stay with him, but by doing so, her brother said she is no longer a part of his life, as he doesn't want his little baby girl in the same family as a rapist. Since then, I've been getting messages from old high school acquaintances telling me I should have ignored it and not told anybody. Since I didn't speak up back then, I lost the right to do so now, and am a horrible person for ruining somebody's life over some stuff he did 10 years ago when he himself was a child as well. Am I truly the asshole for speaking up? Relevant comments. Opie responds to multiple comments about how things are wrong, and she could speak up. Opie, I understand now how wrong it has all been, and that it's say. But we grew up in a small town with approximate 5K people, and I honestly don't know which way it would have gone if I would have spoken up. He was 19 back then, 2 years older, and everybody is in everybody's business. It would have made sound back then, like it does now. They all still live there, and it has made its rounds. That's why so many of our old classmates are reaching out. Most of who still live there have left me furious messages. They have known Nico for all their life and are standing by him. I moved out when I was 20, my mom shortly after, and didn't stay in touch with most. It still breaks my heart to get such a furious response from people who are my whole childhood. And thank you for all your best wishes. I genuinely appreciate it. OP did not ruin Nico's life. He did this himself. OP, I understand that what happened is on him. The backlash I am getting is because he apparently is not that person anymore, and in something he did as a teenager, according to Angie, should not ruin his life and is in no way related to the daughter her brother will have. I don't know if he will ever act out or do something, but it doesn't invalidate what happened to me. So thank you for confirming this. I just can't stop to feel bad about this having so much consequences. While I do not want to see Nico or Angie, I have made my peace with what happened to me back then. Commenter. But why are they attacking you and not the brother? You are not the one objecting to the marriage. Just feels like misogyny and victim blaming TBH. OP. I guess because he is family, and I'm the outsider who ruined their family. I have been getting so many messages from people who didn't even have my number back then. I'm blocking the best I can. It's just hard to not let these comments get to your heart. Commenter. NTA. They got together so soon after the two of you broke up. I can't help but wonder if your friend was convincing you to break up with Nico because she was hoping to get with him all along. OP. I honestly don't believe it. They've known each other for years, and she broke up with her boyfriend 2 weeks before I broke up with Nico. It was a 5K town. Even adding the people our age from near villages, our school had 500 people attending, hence the options are very limiting. OP on getting therapy in order to heal from her past trauma. OP. I was in therapy for 2 years and found peace with what happened to me. I am lucky, as I have no memory of it, but that didn't make it easier. It took me 2 years to be able to have any form of sexual contact again, but I am okay now. It's a part of me, but it's a part one can live with. Honestly, thank you for your kind words, Whiteheart. OP on her health issues at the time when the incident happened. OP. Oh, it's not drunk blacked out. My medicine back then was supposed to lower my heart rate extremely, as I would have a racing heartbeat and my body would start to shut down, hyperventilating, my heart not being able to follow such strong use, and basically tripping over the high heart rate. My heart would start skipping beats, then not being able to follow my thin blood, which flows faster than regular one, and the skipping would be the painful one, as it would start to cramping up. I'm sorry I'm not able to explain it better. English is not my primary language, and I lack the medical vocabulary to fully describe it. The pill slowed my heartbeat and general body functions, thus making me extremely tired. I'd mixed with alcohol. It would basically act like a super strong sleeping pill. My body could be thrown off a cliff, and I wouldn't wake up. I did give consent for the first time we had cuddles, but that was our first and only time. I don't know if we would have had cuddles back then if I would have been conscious, as I didn't like it, being my first time and all, and wasn't that eager knowing repeating it. I don't think calling it grape is wrong, but what I had issues was if I should have approached this subject more sensible. In that way I can understand that I ruined their engagement plans for next week, or his surprise of one. Update 1. First of all, I am immensely thankful for all the people who took the time to not only read through my story, but also comment. I read every single comment and tried to respond to as many as possible. It gave me a little bit of hope of compassion for victims of assault, and also the courage to not cave to the backlash I received. Mental update. Reading all the messages defending my choices on speaking up made me realize how insecure I was on what I am allowed to do, and how much I was trying to make it right to other people besides myself. This especially included Nico and Angie. All of you are right. If Nico had changed, he would have apologized, reached out, or tried to make amends in some way. Either when word got to him from his brother-in-law, or at some earlier point in his life. My former best friend Angie should have been able to feel some sort of compassion if she had any respect for me as a human being, or the time we spend together. Her reactions showed that I shouldn't hesitate on my actions. I went to therapy from 21 onwards and thought I moved on from the assault as best as I could, but I realized how ashamed I still am almost 10 years later about an incident that wasn't my fault at all. I was ashamed to speak up back then and afraid that people around me would look differently at me. And somehow I still felt bad about speaking up today, so I trying to own what happened to me now and not apologize for other people's behaviors, especially as they don't even show me respect. What happened since then? I archived every nasty message I got on WhatsApp so I wouldn't have to read them, but would have the proof if needed at a later point. Angie's mom called me the following day of the incident, crying. I shouldn't have answered the phone, but during the 10 years of friendship, I saw her as an aunt, almost a second mom. She always joked that while her children would run around the house doing whatever, I would always take the time to drink a tea and talk with her, showing her more love and time than her actual children. While she said she's sorry for what has been and for what I went through as a child, she couldn't believe that I would ruin Angie's happiness over something like that. With Angie's brother refusing to have Nico as part of the family and Angie standing by Nico's side, it's divided their family, and she is heartbroken. She has grown to love Nico like family as well, and has known him for nothing more than a considerate young man who she knows will make her daughter happy. It wasn't nasty names or angry talk, just a heartbroken mother who faked to acknowledge my pain and saw the fault in me. Angie's mom tried to get me to apologize or to take it back, but I refused as I don't see the fault in me. With everything that has happened, I believe that Nico hasn't changed and is just hiding it better somehow. He can see how people are standing by him and supporting his behavior so he won't have to change. And that is something I didn't want to indulge. Angie's mom, not even one, used the word grape, and I tried to correct her every time she talked about it, trying to name it for her to understand better, but she would just start sobbing more, and it didn't make sense for us to continue to talk. Angie's mom used to be in contact with mine for some time, and she reached out to her after our talk. I was afraid that my mom would find out, since she's from a more conservative background. We had a long talk, and I didn't get to see her, physically, yet, but she apologized for not being there for me or not making me feel like I can talk to her. I tried to calm her as best as I could, but when she asked me if my current partner knows I was used like that, I got angry. She was scared my partner would leave me if he found out, implying it was something that made me less precious or appealing. When she asked me to keep it a secret from our family abroad and in our country, I hung up. She was acting exactly the way I was afraid she would, as if it's something shameful. It was especially hard as I am trying my best to move away from the feeling of shame. She has since apologized, but it's clear that her view of me has changed. I don't yet know how to deal with it, but that's something to worry about in the next few weeks. As some of you suggested, I wrote Angie's brother, Sven, again and apologized for the mess, but am glad that it is out in the open and how proud I am that he's defending his family. I asked if his old email is still working as I would just send a gift card. He didn't respond, but I got a message from his wife 2 days ago. She thanked me for speaking up and informing them about Nico. There were apparently had a few moments that made her uncomfortable, some jokes Nico made, and in retrospective she can see why. Sven apparently informed her the moment he got my initial text, and both of them have since seen Angie but not Nico. She refuses to be in the same room or house as him, and same goes to their unborn daughter. Sven and Angie's mom has been at their place multiple times to beg to forgive Nico, and Sven caved a little. Angie and Nico will get married. Sven will attend, but his wife will not. He is allowed in the family, but not in contact with either Sven's wife or daughter. Those restrictions are not for Angie. Sven was suffering trying to ease his mother's worries and is not able to take a stand and cut them out completely. This is a compromise they made without his wife's approval, and she told me she's trying her best to cut them out of their life indefinitely. She wanted to move back, closer to her family as well, and thinks this is a perfect opportunity, but isn't sure if she can follow through. His wife told me she's terribly sorry for all the issues that came my way, and it has been a lot trying to handle the situation on their side. Sven knows it's not my fault, but he doesn't want contact. It's hard for him to talk or see my name because even though he knows I'm not the guilty party, in some way I was the bearer or bad news, and he sees me as the start of all this drama. She told me a few times that neither believe I'm the bad guy. They just are tired with everything, and it's just been extremely hard on them. That's all that has happened so far. I am frustrated about how everything came to be. It feels like Nico will just continue with his life without having to be remorseful. I didn't want him to suffer, but I think some part of me wanted to at least receive some kind of apology for all the suffering I went through afterwards. I'm having to deal with my mother and her changed, shameful view on me, and even though I'm happy it's all out, it's extremely hard to stand by my choices. My partner and my best friends both have been my shoulder to cry on during this ordeal. Especially my best friend was enraged for me, and I am extremely grateful to have both by my side. Right now I'm just emotionally drained, but I'm sure it will be better once a few weeks passes. Comments. Commenter 1. You spoke up and did the right thing. If others can't handle the truth, that's their problem. Keep focusing on your healing and support. Commenter 2. NTA. Unfortunately, it's a tale old as time. The woman is blamed, and the rapist gets off without a blemish. Only by speaking the truth over and over will the situation improve, and when the boomers die off. Commenter 3. 100% the right thing. What you did may keep Nico from attacking someone else, or may encourage one of his other victims to step up. You never know how much people like you help everyone else. When you stand up and speak out and are not ashamed of what was not your fault, but will point the finger at the one to shame, you're making the world a better place. I'm sorry for the family Nico misled and the wife who was foolish enough to stay with him, but it's no longer your business. You did the right thing, and it's going to help others. If no one else says it to you, thank you for doing all this. You are amazing. Update 2. Alright, things have escalated in ways I didn't quite anticipate. After Sven's wife reached out and told me about their plan to basically half-cut Nico out of their lives, I thought things might settle down. Boy, was I wrong. Angie, still furious, apparently doubled down on her mission to fix this fractured family situation. I guess she thought that if she couldn't change Sven's mind, she could at least convince the rest of their family to rally around her and Nico. And, to my dismay, she succeeded in creating a whole storm of drama. First, Angie started telling mutual acquaintances, and even some of my own family members, that I had blown things out of proportion. According to her, what happened between Nico and me, yes, she refuses to call it what it was just a misunderstanding of our teenage years. She kept saying that since I didn't speak up sooner, it wasn't fair to Nico, who had apparently changed so much. So now, I'm getting flack from people who weren't even involved in this situation at all. These are people I haven't spoken to in years, suddenly crawling out of the woodwork to tell me I should have let sleeping dogs lie. One of them, Angie's cousin, even had the audacity to say, "You're just bitter that you didn't end up with him and now you're punishing everyone." I was speechless. Bitter? Over who? Nico, the guy who violated my trust and body? Bitter over Angie, who's turned into some defensive mess because she can't face the reality of what happened. My family, as you might have guessed, hasn't been the most supportive either. My mom is still reeling from everything. She thinks I should have kept quiet for the sake of keeping the peace. Yeah, sure, because I've definitely been thriving in this peace, right? Here's where things get even messier. Apparently, Angie and Nico are rushing the wedding. Like, rushing. They're planning to elope because the tension between her and Sven has reached a breaking point. According to what I've heard, through the grapevine, of course, she's convinced that the longer they wait, the more Sven will try to pull the family away from her. So they're doing this now, as if that'll somehow fix everything. I got a text from an unknown number. Turns out, it was from Nico. Yeah, you read that right. Nico. I was at work, minding my own business, when this text pops up saying, "We need to talk." I almost threw my phone across the room. I didn't know whether to ignore it, block the number, or what. But, against my better judgment, I responded. I just said, "What could you possibly have to say to me now?" He didn't waste any time. I never meant to hurt you. What happened back then? I was young and stupid. I didn't realize it would affect you like this. Angie told me you're blowing things out of proportion, but I want you to know I'm sorry. For whatever pain I caused. Like I'd skinned my knee on the playground. Not like he'd assaulted me while I was unconscious. I didn't bother replying. I blocked him, but it left me shaking for hours. The gall of him to reach out now, after all these years, and throw a half-assed apology my way? It's like he still thinks this is something we can just sweep under the rug. As for Sven, I heard through the same grapevine that he's decided to skip the elopement entirely. He's not even showing up. His wife seems pretty much done with the whole thing too, and it's only a matter of time before they cut contact with Angie for good. So, here I am, in the middle of all this chaos, somehow cast as the villain for speaking my truth. Part of me feels relieved, like a weight has been lifted, but another part of me is exhausted. I never wanted to be the one to split a family apart. I never wanted to be the drama, but here I am, carrying the blame for something I didn't ask for. And the worst part? Nico and Angie are getting their happily ever after, while I'm left dealing with this fallout. Update 4. I promised myself I was done with this whole mess, but things came to a head. After blocking Nico, I tried to distance myself completely from the whole situation. I thought I could retreat into my life, focus on work, on my partner, and just let the dust settle. But then, out of nowhere, Sven's wife reached out to me again. This time, she wasn't texting. She called. Her voice was shaky, almost frantic, and I could tell something had gone down. Turns out, Sven had been drinking a lot since Angie's rushed wedding plans were announced. She didn't realize how much it had affected him until she found him completely wasted in their kitchen, smashing bottles against the wall and yelling that he was done being the nice guy. He was furious, not just at Angie or Nico, but at everyone. His mom, Angie, their entire friend group for enabling this farce of a wedding. And, in the middle of this drunken tirade, he kept saying my name, over and over, as if my story had become the final crack that shattered everything. His wife didn't know what to do. She didn't want him to spiral, but she also didn't want to keep pretending like everything was okay. She was genuinely scared for their family and her soon-to-be-born daughter, worried this whole thing would consume them. She asked if I could meet with Sven one last time, just to give him some closure. I should have said no. I should have walked away, but I didn't. We agreed to meet at this small cafe, the kind of place where no one would recognize us, just in case word got back to Angie or anyone else. When Sven walked in, he looked rough, like he hadn't slept in days. I could see the weight of everything pulling him down, but what struck me was the anger still simmering just beneath the surface. He sat down across from me and didn't say anything for a while. We just stared at each other. I could see the struggle in his eyes, like he didn't know where to begin. Finally, he broke the silence. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "for dragging you into this." That threw me off. I expected him to be angry, to demand explanations, or accuse me of something. But instead, he looked defeated. He said the family was completely falling apart. Angie and Nico had officially eloped, and the moment the papers were signed, Angie showed up at Sven's place to try to make peace. She brought Nico with her, of course, thinking that the whole forgive and forget mantra would magically fix everything. But it didn't go like she planned. Sven finally exploded. He told her everything he had been holding back for years. How he never trusted Nico, how Angie betrayed him by choosing to be with someone who had assaulted their childhood friend, and how he couldn't stomach the idea of being in the same room with either of them. Apparently, the argument got so heated that their mom had to step in, begging Sven to forgive them for the sake of family unity. Then, he dropped the bomb. Sven told Angie he wasn't just done with Nico. He was done with her. He told her she had chosen her side, and from that moment on, he wanted nothing to do with her. She wasn't welcome in his life, and most heartbreakingly, she wasn't welcome around his daughter. Angie, of course, lost it, screaming, crying, calling him cruel and unforgiving. But Sven didn't back down. He said that protecting his daughter from someone like Nico was more important than maintaining any fake sense of family loyalty. And then he left. That was it. No more brother-sister relationship. No more pretending. Sven leaned across the table toward me, his hands trembling slightly, and said something I'll never forget. "I should have known. I should have seen it back then, but I didn't. And I'm so damn sorry." There was a part of me that wanted to forgive him right there, to say, "It's not your fault," and ease his guilt. But I didn't. I let the silence hang between us because, truthfully, I wasn't ready to let anyone off the hook that easily. He might not have been responsible for what Nico did, but he was responsible for turning a blind eye for so many years. They all were. And then, just when I thought the conversation was winding down, Sven hit me with the real kicker. "Nico's been arrested." Wait, what? I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost because Sven actually cracked a bitter smile. He went on to explain that after everything came to light, Nico's behavior started raising more red flags with Sven's wife. She had been keeping an eye on him from a distance, making sure he didn't come anywhere near her daughter. But one day, while they were all attending some extended family event, because Angie insisted on forcing them together, she overheard a conversation Nico was having with one of the teenage cousins. The details were vague, but it was enough for her to trust her gut and alert the authorities. A quiet investigation had been going on for weeks without anyone knowing, and just a few days ago, the police showed up at Angie and Nico's place with a warrant. I don't know the full story yet, but it turns out I wasn't Nico's only victim. There were others. Some were older. Some were even younger. My blood ran cold. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it, but it all made sense. The jokes, the way he downplayed what happened to me, the way everyone in that damn town rallied around him. It wasn't because they believed in his innocence. It was because they needed to believe. They couldn't face the truth. Nico had been hiding in plain sight for years, and no one wanted to admit it. I left that cafe with my head spinning, my emotions all over the place. Relief, anger, sadness, but most of all, a sense of closure that I didn't know I was looking for.